Hey kids, welcome to Art 101. Hey everyone, welcome back to Art 101 with me, Mike Burgher. In this episode, we're going to look at the artwork of the great Pablo Picasso. Picasso is arguably the greatest artist of the 20th century for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, he was probably the most versatile artist ever to live. Everything that he touched turned to gold, not literally, but figuratively. Whether it was painting, sculpture, ceramics, photography, etchings, engravings, everything that he did, every artistic media that he tried to undertake, he found success with. Due to the ability to create, market, sell this wide range of art, that kind of equates to success. More success than any other artist in the 20th century. Another reason that we might call him the greatest artist of the 20th century is because of name recognition. More people recognize the name Picasso than recognize the name of Michelangelo Buonarroti during his lifetime. More people recognize Picasso than recognize Rembrandt van Rijn or Leonardo da Vinci. Picasso definitely had name recognition, and to this day, the name Picasso is synonymous with artistic skill. Another one of the contributing factors of this notoriety is money. A lot of times people will look at money and equate financial successes to success overall. When Picasso died in 1973 at the age of 91, the estimate of the value of his estate was over $800 million. Now, a lot of times people say, don't go into art, you're never going to have money, you're going to starve to death. Well, that clearly isn't the case with Picasso. So when you look at the fact that he is the most versatile artist of the 20th century in terms of output and financial success, and he had the name recognition to go along with it. I mean, his name's on a car, for crying out loud. That kind of equates to the fact that he has that distinction as the greatest artist of the 20th century. You can label it a fact if you want. You can label it an opinion if you want, but there it is. When you have a professional career that spans over 70 years, it's really hard to condense that down into a 2-minute video. So I'm really going to do my best to really be concise with this video so you get a good overall idea of the artist that Picasso was. Pablo Picasso was born in Spain on October 25th, 1881. It's easy to recognize that Picasso had an upper hand because of his father's standing. His father was a college professor, and that allowed him to have an in-house teacher at his disposal from a very young age, obviously, all the way through his adolescence. His father got him in the good habit of making plans and sketches from a very early age, and this is something that he would continue to do throughout his entire professional career. Picasso was a very hard worker. He would work up to 8 hours or more a day, sometimes working till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to complete a project. He was not afraid of hard work and put the commitment and the hard work into improving his skills and techniques. Picasso once said, by the age of 12, I could draw like Raphael. By the age of 15, he was a successful exhibitor of his artwork. As a teenage boy, his skills were improving and his ego was growing right along with it. He was in and out of several academic schools and institutions to perfect his skills. However, he really wasn't a school-bound type kid. He did not really get so much into the formality of education and really preferred to take his time and just draw. Throughout Picasso's career, he went in and out of various phases. The first of his major phases would be known as the Blue Period. Picasso's Blue Period was right on the edge of post-impressionism, somewhere between 1901 and 1904. His color palette was dominated by blues and purples. This Blue Period was also very much a reflection of his mood. This is the first time that he would be alone. He was by himself. He was in solitude. He was also suffering a loss. He was depressed about the loss of his best friend, that had committed suicide. His parents put him on a very small budget, so he didn't have a lot of money. He was homesick. His father was very upset with him because his style was changing and his father wasn't very receptive on his artistic choices. Some people say that his dad completely cut him off and didn't give him any money. That's not quite accurate. His mom was giving him money and he did have some money from home, but the purse strings were pretty tight at that time. One of my favorite examples of his artwork at this time is The Old Guitarist. We see this monochromatic work with a very sorrowful theme. This painting illustrates a blind old man who sadly strums a guitar. It's obvious that he is poor with his ragged and torn clothing, and he is left only in the company of his own music. Music is a theme that brings people in. However, in this case, it is used to isolate this man. Although Picasso was getting support from his parents, he was reusing canvases. When you look in the glare off the painting, you can see very distinctly a face right behind his ear. And it is a little bit hard to see in this video footage, but if you look at the still life or the still image, you'll be able to see her face really pop out. In 1904, Picasso would permanently move to Paris, France. In the area known as Montmartre, he would begin working in his Rose period the next year. The Rose period was visually much more upbeat than any of the artwork that he had been producing up to this point. He's making a lot of things about love, about the circus, and about all these other upbeat sorts of topics. Picasso's in love. He falls in love with this young lady by the name of Ferdinand, and Picasso goes into this relationship and he is absolutely in love, and his art would forever change. From this point forward, his love would go up and down with these relationships, as I'll illustrate here in a moment. But during this 7-year fling with Ferdinand, he would understand that love would become a major contributing factor to his output in the way of art. Now, their romance doesn't go too much further because she's already married. But love is a major factor. Now, beyond love, he's also experimenting with opiates, which is kind of helping his happiness a little bit, but we're going to brush that aside. He continues a trend at this point that would continue the rest of his career. That trend is the dating of his paintings and his drawings. During his time in Paris, he would also meet with another great artist by the name of George Braque. Braque and Picasso would become great friends and shared many ideas back and forth. Both of these men were very much influenced by Paul Cézanne of the post-impressionistic time period. Cézanne worked in a very patchwork quilt sort of way. Everything kind of had its own little place, and he didn't do a lot of blending of colors. Both men were influenced by his creative method, and this is where they developed Cubism. Although Cubism was largely Braque's idea, Picasso wasn't too proud to take it and really fine-tune it into what it became. Although it really wasn't the first Cubist painting, Picasso's The Young Women of Avignon would become his greatest Cubist painting. The title in itself is kind of unique because Picasso hated the title. He originally wanted to call it The Philosophical Brothel, but the name was changed in 1916. The new title, Avignon, refers to a street in Barcelona where the brothel was located. The completion of the work took place in the year that Cézanne died, in 1906. It took Pablo about a year to finish this work, and he steals the palette directly from Cézanne. Picasso removes all signs of black and relies on shades of blue and red to complete the entire composition. The influence of African art and sculpture is very much a key component of the artwork that you see here. Only small groups of patrons or potential buyers saw this painting. No one wanted to buy it. A lot of people, after seeing the painting, thought that Picasso had gone crazy. So for a long time, the painting was put against the wall so no one could even see it. It was finally revealed almost 30 years after it was finished. Picasso was a recognized artist by 1910, and this allowed him the ability to really change things up. At the time, he was working with Cubism and experimentation. His most famous surrealistic painting was called Guernica, an anti-war painting created after his heartbreak of the slaughter that took place in this little city. It was Monday, April 26, 1937. Peasants from all around the city come to sell their wares in kind of an open-air market situation. This unprotected city would become the first in history to be rocked by saturation bombings. News of this spread quickly. Picasso was reading about this because at the time he was actually living in Paris. The Republic would commission Picasso to create this large-scale painting for the 1937 World's Fair, which was going to be hosted in Paris that year. It only took Picasso 24 days to create this entire massive painting. In the painting, we see a childlike horse becoming twisted with an injury. The horse is based on the idea of Pegasus, a mythological symbol of the birth of art and poetry. At the bottom of the painting, a fallen warrior holds a broken sword. Behind his hand, we see a new hope in the form of a growing flower. Picasso would paint the entire thing at a slight angle because the 12-foot-high canvas was too high to fit in the room that he was painting it in. He would use a ladder with brushes tied to poles to reach the high areas. Although Picasso did not himself actually own the work because it was commissioned, he wanted it to be seen, and he wanted it to be seen by Franco. He wanted this thing to go out and be seen and recognized and kind of in his face. So the painting, it went on tour. The painting traveled Europe and found a home at the Museum of Modern Art in New York for a while, and Picasso wanted it to stay there until Spain was free. Franco asked for the United States to return the painting. Franco wanted the painting to be returned to Spain to help pay for some back taxes that Picasso had not paid, but the United States refused. After many years in New York City, the painting would be moved to Spain in 1981 as a part of the Prado Museum. In 1992, the artwork would move to its current home at the Reina Sofia in Madrid, Spain. In 2010, I took a group of students out to see Spain, and it was an absolute treat to be able to see this impressive artwork in person. As a general rule, Picasso's creativity and artistic inspiration would go up and down like a roller coaster based upon the women in his life. It began all the way back with his Blue Period days. Ferdinand Oliver would become kind of his main squeeze back in those days. She was often a model for him. She saw him as a workaholic, impulsive buyer, and a jealous lover. In 1914, Picasso was commissioned to work for a ballet company where he met Olga, a Russian ballerina, who would then become, eventually, his first wife. Being uptight, snobbish, and very much against his bohemian lifestyle, she was clearly the wrong wife for Picasso. Together they had a son named Paul. As was the typical case, Picasso got very bored with her, got very bored with his son, and moved on. After they divorced, she had a nervous breakdown, stalked him for many years. During their marriage, he had an affair with a very tall, athletic, blonde Swiss girl named Marie-Thérèse Walter. They met just by a happenstance in front of a department store. She was a 15-year-old model for him, and eventually this would evolve very quickly into a love affair. She and Picasso would have a daughter. She was absolutely devastated after Picasso's death and would end up committing suicide in 1977. Dora Maar would become his next muse. She was a photographer. She was known for her intelligence, artistic ability, and being very nervous and passive when it came to Picasso, which he absolutely loved. She was with Picasso for almost 7 years. It is her work that chronicles the progress of the painting Guernica. She would die at the age of 89 in July of 1997. While they were still together, he would meet Françoise in Paris. She was an art student taken back by Picasso's fame. She was with him for 10 years before finally being fed up with his shenanigans. Jacqueline would become Picasso's last lover and his second wife. She was with him for the last 20 years of his life. She was the everything to the aging Picasso, and she gave up everything to be with him. She endured his crazy and violent behavior. She was absolutely devastated after his death and ended up committing suicide. And that's kind of the way Picasso's life was. It was always up and down. It was always this drama around him. And I guess the moral of the whole Picasso story is you can be great in certain aspects of your life and really suck at other parts of life. I hope you enjoyed watching Art 101 with me, Mike Burgher. Make sure you check the archive of other videos we've got. We've got lots of stuff. Feel free to subscribe, follow along with what we're doing. I hope you've enjoyed this journey of art, but hey, what do I know? I color for a living.